Hello there! Once again, it's Anton from Anton Obey, and I like to talk a lot of shit about NECA and how their figures are so breakable. But that really got me thinking, what figures do I have that have actually broke? If you haven't seen my full collection, there is a video. It's called My Awesome Action Figure Collection. You can see it. I have a lot of figures, thousands and thousands and thousands of figures. But of those thousands and thousands, and all the years, what has actually broke? Well, I decided to put together every action figure that has ever broke in a pile, and we're going to look at them, and we're going to see who's the most guilty of breakable action figures. I'm going to start off. This is one that really broke my heart. This is Catwoman. This is a DC Direct Catwoman. This is the best Catwoman suit ever. It's the most purple and leathery looking, the bestest, chestest of whatever. I love this Catwoman figure. But promptly, the fucking knee snaps. Immediately. This is a reoccurring problem with DC Direct, and an issue that I have with them frequently. So, yes, that was a sad, sad break. And when I say a frequent problem, I mean a frequent problem. This is another DC Direct that I literally took out of the box. And when I took her out of the box, her leg snapped off immediately. And I blame most of this on the fact that they use that really shitty, brittle, clear plastic stuff. Broke as soon as I took it out of the package. And shortly after, her arm snapped off. And you can see they're using that transparent, clear plastic shit. It's like acrylic. It just snaps. It's worthless. They need to stop making them that way. DC Direct is not the only action figures I've ever had that are broke. And these aren't action figures that I like roughhouse with or anything like that. I'm not a child. Much. This Storm figure. I believe this was a Hasbro X-Men movie Storm. For some reason, she just decided to snap in two one day while I was handling it. Like I said, I'm not throwing or smashing them together. I'm a collector. I display, I pose, and Halle Berry just halved and Berry. Even still, it's a nice form figure. Look at that. But it broke. Don't know why. This is... this was kind of iffy on the list. This is technically a Chinese knockoff Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I got a full set of these for $25. They are great for what they are. However, every one of them, the shell has popped off just because of the glue. It didn't work right. Honestly, it's the only thing I've had that's broke. But I feel like since I'm going to tell every figure I've had that's broke, I should mention that one. So those broke. It was an easy glue fix job. A company that I always regarded as being really tough figures, Jakks Pacific. I even tried to glue it. This Stephanie McMahon is a mess, period. For one thing, her arm is backwards. I don't know why her arm bends backwards. It's the right hand on the right. It's the left hand on the left side. But the elbow is backwards. I don't know if they put like a right arm elbow on the wrong side. Other than that stupidity, she snapped in two one day. I was just posing her and moving her, and she just popped right in my hands. Which was very surprising because this is usually a very tough toy line. I think she's the only Jakks Pacific that ever broke on me. Even this guy. This guy, I love this guy. He is from James Bond Jr. And he came with like a cool hook hand thing that shot, but you're begging for it to break. This used to have like a hook on it. Snaps off. I wasn't rough with it. I got him new out of the package. But just the age of it, it snapped off. I will forgive this one because, that's a pretty delicate piece. And to have that shear off, that's kind of expected. Anytime you make a figure that's like clear plastic and acrylic, I've had a couple of these. This is a Covenant Elite transparent version. I'm surprised he's not breaking in my hands right now, but he has snapped numerous times. I think he's glued in several places. Just the clear joints and everything, they just break. They just do. He's broken a lot. Another DC victim. This is Bombshell's Katana. One of the most gorgeous figures I believe they've ever made. This is an absolute stunning figure. And I bought one, the ankle snapped. I put a pin in it to repair it. I still felt bad about it, so I bought another one. And another part of it broke. I can't remember which part of that one broke. It's still up on display. But I have two of these because they broke every time. And like I said, I am very delicate with these things. I am very careful with them. But DC, I can't remember what line. I know it's Bombshells, but I can't remember. Icon series? I think it's Icon series. Just the ankles just shatter. They just snap like nothing. And it's a shame because she is absolutely gorgeous. Not to pick on DC, but I have another DC figure. This one, maybe this one is an Icons line. This one, the shoulder has snapped like right at the joint here. And I'm not the best action figure repairer, obviously. Put a metal stud in there, screwed it back on, put it back on display. This one I did call DC, and they were good enough to send me a replacement. They just had one laying around the office. That is one thing the guys at DC have been really good about. Anytime I open a brand new figure and it's like, this just freaking broke in my hands, they've been really good about replacing it. I love this Power Girl figure. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, I have two of them because one of them, the freaking arm broke. It's not just DC though. I have had my share of Marvel Legends break on me, and I consider Marvel Legends to be one of the best constructed figures out there, next to maybe like Mattel's WWE stuff. But this Anne O'Brien, her leg is broke right at the hip. It is glued. It does not hold very well at all. I do have several Anne O'Briens because I pick them up whenever I can, because after this one broke, I was like, well, I need to have some extras, because this is one of my favorite Marvel Legends figures for some reason. Giant ass redhead with Converse sneakers on, kind of a Amazon April O'Neil look to it. I absolutely love this thing. But yeah, freaking right at the hip. And speaking of breaking at the hip for Toy Biz Marvel Legends, my Abomination, just while posing him, snapped right in the same spot. You can see this is a very small pin for such a giant leg and a beefy figure, but broke right at the ball joint. I don't know how to repair that. That's a son of a bitch. I have better Abomination figures, but it was just really sad that this one snapped the way it did. I was just bummed. That's a bunch of crap. This gal here, right out of the package. This is Commander Shepard. I struggle to remember the video game. But it's a good looking figure. Same problem as the Catwoman. Sheared right at the hip, or right at the knee. The pin just popped out. I have repinned it with metal, but it's still... Dude, it broke. It broke out of the box. Right in the knee joint. And that just makes them the shits to display. And it makes it a bummer. There is pieces of him all over the place. I think this was just a factory glue problem with this guy that I had. But his pelvis, the glue just separated, drops his legs out, the figure just falls apart. This is a tremendously nice Marvel Legends, and I don't know if it's just because they're using that clear paint shit, and I just need to re-glue it, but the fact that I have to re-glue it is pretty stupid to me. I'm not a fan of that. Oops, put that on the wrong side. That's his front. There we go. Don't want to mix those up. So he just snaps back together, but the fact that this is a new figure, relatively new, and he just disassembled that way. Very, very upsetting. Another really recent release Hasbro figure that broke my heart, because I love this guy. This is a Galaxy Magnum Defender. This is a Power Rangers Lightning Collection figure. And those figures are solid as shit. This one, the elbow pin just snapped on the backside. So his arm is just kind of hanging in there, just barely. I don't want to pull it all the way out, but it is definitely broken to the point that I can't successfully pose it or move it. Not a hard figure to find or replace. Just a disappointment that I have to, because, I mean, this is a space bounty hunter dude with a cape. It's like a dark space knight guy. Love that. So why did his elbow break? That's just a bummer. Classic McFarlane. This is from, I think, Wetworks. Her head just snapped off. Now, I know it's an older figure, and we can give him a pass on that. But it is disappointing. It's always disappointing when your figure breaks. But when you look at how this was like glued or affected on there, I'm like, what the hell is that? This is factory. That's how the factory put it out. I don't know what went wrong with that, but her head just snapped clean off. Easy enough to glue it back on, but I'm just going to say every figure that broke, that shouldn't have. Like this guy here, I understand the breakage. This is a vintage, what is this? It's Voltron, but it's not Lion Voltron. Die Rugger? I think it's Die Rugger. This is a figure I wanted for years, finally bought one. And it's probably the age and the fact that the body is all like die cast and the arms are at least flimsy plastic. But he was sitting on the shelf and he just fell over and just snapped his arm right off. And I know that that's not the manufacturer's fault, and I know it's very old, but for posterity's sake, this is a figure that broke. That broke my heart when it did. I've heard of people complaining that their Ninja Turtle figures snap their legs off. I've never had that happen, but this is a Playmates Toys. This is Bonehead from the Toxic Crusaders. Went to pose him, move him, and just his little plastic thing that holds his legs together just snapped clean. And I don't know how you fix that. That's the shits, because I loved this figure. It's one of my favorite of the Toxic Crusader line. One of my favorite figures when I was growing up. For some reason, I just loved this guy. He was so Return of the Living Dead looking. Horrific character. And snapped and broke. Very sad. Marvel Legends again. I had to buy the whole set of Alpha Flight figures because I'm a huge Alpha Flight fan. And this one snapped the first time I tried to move her. And I'm not an idiot. I run these things under hot water. I do my best to move them carefully. But this one was just frozen and just broke. And I did buy another one. I've got her replaced. But I still keep this broken one as this sad reminder of what shit can happen. And it sucks. And we move on to the More Collectibles. Now, More Collectibles did a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer figures, which were pretty good figures. They're not very posable. But because they're not very posable, you'd think maybe they'd be a little more durable. Holy shit. Her hand just snapped clear off while I did the video. Oh, that fucking sucks. Anyway, popped this Willow out of the package, and immediately her hip snapped off. Like, pulled it out, went to turn it, and it just crumbled right off of my hand. And I think they're using a lot of the same shitty clear plastic. Stop using this, people. It's just crap. And as you can see, just as I was trying to move her arm, yeah, her hand just broke off. What the shits? Even when More Collectibles tried to bump up their game, this, in my opinion, is one of the best Buffy figures ever made. It's almost Marvel Legends quality in its movement. However, the minute I opened this, I bought this in a comic book shop in Iowa, and the minute I opened it, pulled it out, her hip snapped clean. right at the ball joint. I was able to glue it. I don't pose her very well. I don't move her very much because it's so fragile now that it's been broken. But as you can see, this was a gorgeous Buffy figure, but snapped right at the hip. And I don't know, I can't remember who made this one. If it's Toy Biz, let's see who it is. I guess I should move my finger there. Diamond Select. Son of a bitch. Anyway, broke right at the hip. Gorgeous figure though. Made me very sad. And then the only other figure I have that has broken. This is a Fraulein Reveltech. Who is this? I don't know my anime that well. Forgive me. I love anime figures. I love their characters. And I got really into the Fraulein Reveltech line for quite a while. But this one snapped, and it really upset me because it's from Evangelion. I remember that. Or Evangelion, however you say that. But snapped right at the elbow. The joint that clicks in there. And you can click it back in and hold it. But it doesn't change the fact that the figure freaking broke. And that was very sad. I didn't pay a lot for this. I got it at a good deal. These are usually very expensive. But there you go. I don't know if this is good or bad, but for the thousands and thousands of figures that I own, this is every one of them in my lifetime that has ever broke. So take that for what you will. Like I said, I'm not roughhousing them, not an amateur here. I may be amateur at action figure repair, but I shouldn't have to know how to repair action figures because they should make them to not break. You'll notice there isn't a single NECA in this pile. I'm always afraid NECA figures are going to break, and I've heard a lot of horror stories. I don't actually have one that's broken. I think the biggest culprit here has been DC Direct or DC Icons. For what it's worth, that is every action figure that's ever broken on me. And that's my story. And I will catch you guys later. Bye.